This is All Dolphins Talk on the Lads Football Network. And thank goodness we don't have to talk about that football game on Sunday, Alan, because the media, we got, I don't know, I think Brian Flores threw us a bone. Otherwise, we would have to talk about this Jet game for most of the show. And it was an ugly, I tell you what, this was one of those games for the Dolphins that you normally see with winning teams where you can say, man, we didn't really play all that well, but we shut them out 24-0. That means we're doing something pretty good here.
Yeah, and there were a lot of fans who were complaining that they didn't pile it on in the second half. They didn't need to. They were never threatening that game. They were never going to lose. They weren't never going to even be in danger of losing their leads. They got off to the 21-0 start at halftime, and then there was basically
there was no reason to go for it at the 40 and go for it on 4th and 1, at the 10 or whatever. Why you do it? There's no reason to do that. Just kick the field goal, punt the ball. There's no reason to be aggressive at that point.
No, and it's been the same thing in their 3 wins. I mean, the game against Jacksonville, they were comfortably ahead at halftime. Same with San Francisco. Same with the Jets, where at that point the Dolphins are playing the clock. They're playing situational football, which is basically take care of running the clock. Don't give the other team a chance to come back.
Exactly.
And they won those games by, was it 18, 26, and 24.
Yeah, so. Don't give the other team any momentum at all. There's no reason to do that.
No reason. It's not like the Jets are going to.
Yeah, the only thing you could do is do something dumb like, we will go for it at 40. And then somehow the Jets, because they have a short field, score like a field goal even, and maybe that gets them to do something, but you don't even want to get them to feel anything. Just because at some point they'll at some point in this season they'll find some momentum somewhere. So why give them momentum in our game? They're not playing well. Don't even give them any sense of life whatsoever.
Greg, are you sure about that?
Well, when they get Darnold back, yeah, because Flacco's. This is not. I don't even know what he's doing on this team. I mean, he should have signed with a team with a really good offensive line that was going to be a Super Bowl contender. That if their star quarterback went out, he could play a game or two. But with when you take Becton out of that offensive line, they lost the other 2 linemen during the game. He can't do anything. And then even when he was supposed to do something in the beginning of the game, he's got Perryman wide open in the first play of the game, and he can't hit him. It's a waste of time until Darnold gets back. Yeah, the Jets are going to be awful.
Yeah, no, they're bad on all levels. I mean, it's not just, I don't want to.
No, they are a bad team. It's just that they're pathetically bad when you take out, Darnold and Becton, and you take out some of their key guys. It shows you really how bad they are.
Yeah, no, that's a rough team. They're rough to watch.
Yes. It is. It's. You can imagine as a Jet fan. Yeah, no question. And then I got to talk about it. But that's something we won't have to talk too much about because it's Tua time.
Mm-hmm.
And considering Fitzpatrick had played well over the last few weeks, considering the team has won 2 straight, considering the team looks as good as they ever have since Brian Flores has been here, are you surprised at the timing?
Shocked is more like it. I mean, this came out of left field, and I understand this is the new bye week that the Dolphins have because of the reshuffling of the schedule, but you mentioned they won their last 2 games, and here's a stat I dug up. Check this out. The Dolphins won their last 2 games by 26 and 24 points. The last time they won in back-to-back weeks, each time by at least 24 points, you have to go all the way back to 1983 when Dan Marino was a rookie. For the last time the Dolphins did that. Ryan Fitzpatrick threw 3 touchdown passes against both the 49ers and the Jets. Dolphins are 3-3. They're a game out of first place behind the Buffalo Bills, who are not playing very good football, who don't look nearly as good as they did when they got off to their 4-0 start. We have reached a point where you look at the Dolphins and you go, whoa, this team could make a push for the playoffs, and they're legitimate. And then, boom, we throw this out. Completely shocked by the timing of it.
Let's pose this. If a team called the Dolphins in the next couple of weeks before the trade deadline, and let's say they needed it, quarterback goes down, and they ask for Ryan Fitzpatrick, what do you think it would take for the Dolphins to trade Fitzpatrick, knowing how valuable he would be as a mentor, as a backup. They're still trying to get to the playoffs. Give me a number in a round that you think the Dolphins would have to say, you know what? Yeah, okay, we have to take that pick.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I have a whole lot of insight into exactly how they're thinking, because
Sure.
they're always very tough to read, and they play their cards very close to the vest. Again, just with this move that nobody saw
Oh yeah.
coming at this particular time. I
This is
again
your own
because
personal feelings. What do you think? Do you think it would be? I mean,
for me, if I'm running the Dolphins, I'm not even giving it a thought if it's anything other than a two. And at a two, I start thinking about it. And even at that
so
point,
that's how valuable it is to keep Ryan here for at least a couple of years, which you would think this is it. This is it for Ryan. There's no reason for Fitzpatrick to go anywhere else.
correct. Well, I'm not even sure how much longer he's going to play. I mean, his
Exactly.
contract runs
Yeah.
out this year. But because here's the thing: number one, he is perfect as a mentor
Absolutely.
for Tua, as a backup for Tua,
Yes.
and then you let him go. There's no other quarterback on the active roster. You're going to bring.
Yes.
You're not going
Yeah.
to bring Sennett off the practice squad.
Yeah.
So that leaves them in the market for a quarterback. So, and if we're being honest here, it's kind of hard to imagine any team wanting to throw a second round pick at the Dolphins.
Agreed. Yes. Yeah. I think it would have to be something like, let's say Andy Dalton gets hurt for the Cowboys, something like that, where a team still believes they can win and they have nobody, like the Dolphins would be. And we have to do something. We got to bring in someone that's a veteran that could pick it up right away and could actually help us go to the playoffs. That would be desperation time, and maybe a team would be desperate enough to give the Dolphins what they'd be looking for, but it's probably not going to happen. I just thought it would be an interesting topic, just in case, because this is
I'd
tour
have to
time.
look at Greg. I'd have to look at the research. I can't imagine there's been many trades of a second round pick for 30 years
No,
for a soon to be
no,
8-year-old quarterback.
no. You would never know. The Dolphins would never get a second, but I hear what you're saying. The value is different from what they would get, and that's important to note. But yeah, this is Tua's team now, and this is going. It's you mentioned the time off, which is perfect, no question about it. This gives them extra time to prepare and so forth. What do you think so far from what you know about the makeup of this team and how they have responded to Fitzpatrick? Do you at all see any sort of adjustment, major adjustment, not just rookie to veteran, but everything, personality and so forth?
Not really, because it's a looks like a tight group in terms of how they get along, and then Tua has fit in very well from that standpoint. As much as everybody on the team likes Fitzpatrick, the sense I get is that everybody likes Tua as well. So from that standpoint, it's not going to be an issue. From a pure on the field perspective, maybe the offense changes a little bit. Obviously, you have a lefty quarterback coming in for a righty quarterback, so there's that change. I would expect maybe fewer shots down the field with Tua at quarterback, because the arm strength's not necessarily there. Perhaps more rolling out and maybe more shotgun, because that suits his skill set maybe a little bit more. But overall, in terms of what it means from an intangible standpoint and chemistry and all that, I don't expect that it changes a whole
All right.
lot.
So then, if you had to pick a player on offense that you think might benefit the most from the switch?
That's a good question. That's a very, very good question. I don't know that I could pick one, actually. I think, since I see Tua as being perhaps more of an intermediate and short passer than Fitzpatrick is, so maybe the tight ends would benefit from Tua being in the lineup.
Okay.
Either running backs coming out of the backfield would benefit.
Even though at
from
Alabama, because they had all those big time receivers, you never saw Tua throw to the tight ends very much. But that was Alabama. They had too many star receivers, and they were just that type of team. So why dink and dunk to tight ends? But that doesn't mean we won't see that, because not only has Gesicki, of course, looked good at times, but now all of a sudden Shaheen has quietly played well. And this is a guy that was drafted pretty high, so he's got talent.
Yeah, but before I address Shane, one thing that Tua is not going to have with the Dolphins that he had at Alabama is 5 or 6 seconds in the pocket.
That's true.
To really set up and chuck it down the field.
Big difference. Yes.
So one of his 4 first round wide
Yes.
receiver. Completely insane to think about.
Yes.
No, Shaheen, as you mentioned, I mean, former second round pick from Ashland, didn't pan out with the Bears. A lot of it had to do with injuries. And the Dolphins, this is a great trade for the Dolphins. They throw like a really late round pick, see what the guy can bring in. And now you got two really good receiving options at tight end with him and Mike Gesicki. And block Gesicki, so you team him up with Durham Smythe. Nice little tight end room with those three guys.
It's way too early. Speaking of receivers, to have we have no word on any of the injuries, including Parker, who left the game, and we did talk about that last time. That here's a guy who has learned how to play through pain. So unless it's
Mm-hmm.
anything serious, we would expect everything's going to be okay with Parker. And unless it's something that really takes him out, we would expect Parker to be a-okay and ready to play in about 10 days, 11 days.
Yeah, the only thing that's troublesome about his injury, it's the groin, which is not necessarily an area where you want to see an injury when you're talking about a wide
Hmm.
receiver. And again, it's another different injury. I mean, he's already had an ankle injury, a hamstring injury earlier this year. And at some point, there's going to be a cumulative effect. And I mean, is it going to wear him out? Is his production going to totally dip because of the accumulation of injuries? So ideally, you don't want to see him get injured. But logically, again, depending on the severity, one would hope that he'd be in the lineup November 1st when Tua makes his first start against the LA Rams.
I wonder if this is, I wonder if one player who might benefit, and we know that, well, we know what Parker can do. So that's a guy that, sure, I mean, he could even be better. I mean, you have an even more electrifying quarterback. Your stats could even go up even more than they have so far in his career. Uh, Preston Williams would be interesting. Uh, that's a possibility, but I'm also looking at maybe Grant. And Ford's also been a nice player, but he's not a big game breaker. He's a little slot guy, 10-yard a catch guy. But Grant is an electrifying, fast player who, if you can get him the ball and you have a quarterback that can break down the defense and you got a guy running around the field with his types of speed, I wonder whether or not Grant could be somebody that the Dolphins could find a way to get on the field a little bit more and maybe work him into the offense more.
Yeah, for that to happen, though, Grant's got to become as reliable as possible. He's got a little bit of an issue with drops, which is not when you have what you want to have as a wide
No.
receiver. So he's got to show the Dolphins that they can depend on him to make the catch, both the tough catch and the easy catch. Remember, I think it was a third down pass against the 49ers over the middle that he dropped. But he's a guy, yeah, he can make some plays. He had a really nice game as a punt returner against the Jets on Sunday. And he's got the kind of speed that absolutely could become useful in that Dolphin offense because they don't have necessarily a ton of it. Parker and Williams are fast guys, but mostly in a straight line. Where Grant obviously he's got
Yeah.
the shiftiness along with the straight line speed.
Yeah, and you would think too, since he doesn't necessarily have sometimes when rookie quarterbacks come into the league, they might have a rookie wide receiver that comes into the league, a high pick, and they can kind of sort of like what you're seeing with Cincinnati with Burrow and Higgins. That does tend to happen. So Dolphins don't have that, but Preston Williams, was pretty much the youngest, talented with upside guy next to Parker. So maybe that's something we'll keep an eye on because we know Preston Williams has a lot of talent. If there's one specific thing that you think Preston has to do to be more consistent, what would it be?
Uh, Again, it goes back with the wide receiver. It goes back to catching the ball.
Okay.
Wasn't necessarily crazy about how he dealt with Jet safety Marcus May on the second interception that Fitzpatrick threw against the Jets. Because it looked to me like it was one of those where Fitzpatrick just chucked it and basically told his wide receiver, "You win that
Yeah.
one-on-one battle." Marcus May really won it. Of course, making an interception with his butt is quite the feat, but that's a different
Yeah.
story. Where I think Preston Williams could really thrive with Tua is one of Tua's best throws is the quick slant, and Preston Williams has gotten some mileage out of that route with Fitzpatrick, and he's got the body size for it where he gets inside position, and with a big frame of his, he can basically box out a defensive back. And I could see the Dolphins making heavy use of that particular play with Tua.
Okay. Robert Hunt has taken over for the last couple of games with Jackson out. How do you think he has done?
I think he actually has done very well. And you go back with the thing with the offensive line. Basically, if you don't notice them, they're doing a fairly good job. The one guy we're noticing a little bit too much the last couple of weeks is Solomon Kinley. Uh, but Robert Hunt, as far as I've seen, actually has looked very, very good to the point where when Austin Jackson is back from his foot injury, Dolphins are going to have a decision to make because right now they have three solid, serviceable tackles. So what do you do? Because you only have two spots. Ideally, I know offensive line coach Steve Marshall talked Tuesday morning about being anxious to get Austin Jackson back in the fold and continue working with him. Ideally, you want to get him back in the starting lineup. And Robert Hunt's played well enough to stay in the starting lineup as well. So now, what do you do with Jesse Davis, who made the switch from right to left to replace Jackson? So, but again,
interesting.
Having too many players for spots is always a good problem to have. So I don't think you're going to hear Dolphins complain about that.
And we talked about Hunt at draft time, a player that was there were some scouts who believed he was more of a project, a guy that needed a lot of time. Others that felt like the Dolphins that, hey, you know what, he's worth a higher pick. That maybe we can get him in there and play a little bit earlier in his career. And so far, so good. I would look. I'm just guessing, but if you get a guy like Hunt who has looked really good so far, and it's not like he looks like an old pro yet, but compared to what things could have been like as a rookie, you tend to think that maybe makes more sense to have Hunt and Jackson out there. That's your future, and unless any of those guys are going to cause you to lose games and are going to make mistakes and they're just not ready, that doesn't seem to be the case. Maybe Hunt and Jackson should be the two tackles.
Completely agree. Again, unless there's a clear difference and there's a clear drop off from either Jackson on the left side to Jesse Davis or on the right side, then I think you have to go with the two young guys. And here's the thing with Hunt is there are some analysts who actually had him rated like in the teens to 20s in terms of offensive tackles in the draft, but had him at number one if you projected him as a guard. While he looks like he can handle right tackle at that spot, and they already have a solid right guard in Solomon Kinley, even though maybe he's not played as well the last couple of weeks as early on, but he looks like a solid player there as well. So, yeah, if Austin Jackson comes back, unless there's a clear difference, stick with the three rookies in there.
Well, and you see what the Patriots do, and other teams also have the philosophy, which I think makes sense. You go with the five best guys that you can. And even though sometimes you go, because the Patriots do it to the extreme, well, they'll put guys at center that have never played center for 2 or 3 years. They just, hey, we're going to get the best five guys. We don't care if they haven't had a lot of experience there. Hey, this guy is supposed to be a guard. No way is he a tackle. Well, all of a sudden you look and the guy's playing tackle for the Patriots. Well, they just don't care. And I don't mind that philosophy either. So if the Dolphins feel that they can figure out a way to get the best five guys on the field, and even Hunt or one of the other players has to move to a different position, and that's what you do.
Yeah, except the way I see it, and again, I would have to spend a good 4 or 5 hours studying the film.
Yeah.
But the way I see it is they have 6 offensive linemen who are all solid, serviceable. So I don't think there's a need. It's okay to switch guys around if the need arises or to get the 5 best players on the field. But if you have 6 guys who are pretty even in terms of their ability and their dependability.
No reason to overthink.
Yeah, there is. And Ted Karras has played well at center. Eric Flowers has been solid at left guard. So stick with it.
All right, defensively. Speaking of rookies, Brandon Jones saw his playing time go up to 97% as far as snaps were concerned. He continues to play really.
Byron Jones. That was
Brandon Jones.
No, I'm sorry. That was Byron Jones who played 97% of the snaps against the Jets. Brandon Jones didn't play that much.
He didn't. Okay. I thought I saw both of them, but that's okay. Anyway, Jones and also Iguabin. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Iguabin.
Yeah. Okay, Iguabin. Tell me a little bit about Iguabin, because this is another kid that we really don't know a lot about. He was able to get more. Now, did he get more playing time because of who? Van Ginkel's injury, or?
Well, because of multiple injuries, because Kyle Van Noy didn't play at all because he had a groin injury. Then they added a foot on Saturday. They added a foot injury. I should specify, not a foot. Then Van Ginkel left the game in the first half to be evaluated for a concussion, didn't come back, which basically means he had a concussion. Then Camus Grugier-Hill suffered a hand injury, and I saw a national report where he basically broke a bone in his finger and it pierced through the skin. Basically, got
Ah,
it put back into place and went back and played, but they were left short at linebacker, which meant a whole lot more playing time for Iguavan, who up to that point in the season had played pretty much only on special teams. This is a kid who played in the CFL for 3 years. The Dolphins signed him last year, got a lot of playing time last year on a team that didn't have nearly as much talent at linebacker, which is why he got a lot of PT. He started 6 games, I believe it was, and then came back this year. And there's something there. I mean, he played actually very well against the Jets, against admittedly not a great offense, but he played well, and it spoke well to the Dolphins' depth at linebacker. But obviously, hopefully, the Dolphins are going to have Van Ginkel and Van Noy back when they face the Rams on November 1st.
and Howard, fourth interception in 4 games, correct?
Mm-hmm. That dude can play.
Is he
I mean,
playing pretty much at the top of his game? Have you seen him play better?
well, he's back to 2018 than Xavier Howard. I remember looking at him that year and thinking, there's a better cornerback in the NFL. Let me see him because I don't see it. Um, and then last year, from the start, he wasn't right. Then wound up going on IR with a knee injury. This year, early on, he wasn't quite 2018 Xavier Howard. And even the first game where he had his first pick of the season, still wasn't there. But like the last couple of games, let's say, um, teams are not completing anything towards him. They're not throwing in his direction very much, which is smart because on top of being a great cover guy, he's got great ball skills. If he gets close to a ball, he's going to pick it off, which is why he's leading the NFL in interceptions with 4 so far this season. He has the most since sometime late in the 2018 season, and that's despite missing all the time that he missed last year, or 2017 season, one of those.
And then, of course, you put him with Jones,
Mhm.
Byron Jones, and he's been back for the last couple of weeks. It makes a big difference. There's just no question about it. You stick anytime you stick a rookie corner that's not, a top 10 pick out there, and even if it is a top 10 pick, you can struggle. It makes the world of difference, and especially now, also in this day and age, this season, with all the points being scored and all the quarterbacks that the team is going to have to face. You got to have those. I mean, that's where you're paying the guys. I mean, these are the two, highest paid guys on your team, and they're delivering, and that's important.
And I'd be hard pressed right now to find a much better cornerback tandem than Byron Jones and Xavier Howard, which is why they paid Byron Jones the big money in the offseason, hoping all along that Xavier Howard could get back to the level he was in 2018, and it looks like he is. So now Noah Benogany, who was forced into a whole lot of action from the Buffalo game, the Jacksonville game, the Seattle game, now is just basically being used in spot duty, which obviously makes the whole secondary better because he wasn't quite ready for that kind of playing time just yet.
Gaskin, 91 yards, 51 after contact on 18 attempts, and we even talked about it last week. This is important. It's the Dolphins. Just imagine how much better this Dolphin offense could be if the running game, if one running back even just can get to between 80 and 100 yards, almost every week. That makes a world of difference.
No question about it. And no, the kid just continues to perform. I mean, kudos to him. 7th round pick last year, uh, inactive for the first half of the season, then got some carries down the stretch. Came back this year, a completely different running back, as his position coach Eric Stootsville told us Tuesday morning. And from the start, he's been the best Dolphin running back, better than Jordan Howard, better than Matt Breida. So he's going to keep getting the bulk of the work. Now the question is just what kind of level he can reach, um, which is why I know the Dolphins Le'Veon Bell last week reportedly were one of his 3 finalists. And I had some people on social media suggesting they don't need him, they should go after him. Well, sorry, yes, they should have gone after him, and it would have been great to get him because Le'Veon Bell, while he may not be the Le'Veon Bell of Pittsburgh, is still a better running back than anybody on the Dolphin roster. And that's no disrespect to Myles Gaskin, who is
Sure.
proving to be a great story, but he's not quite at that level. But hopefully he continues to improve as he has since the start of the season.
And I would I don't think that would have been a good match anyway. Le'Veon, I wouldn't him going to Miami. I would have been a little bit
Why
concerned.
not? Why not?
What's that?
Why not? The Dolphins are not as dysfunctional
No,
as
no,
the
no, no,
Jets.
no.
Here, you got
Organizationally, talking about the city, the
well,
distractions of Le'Veon Bell in Miami. That's
well, he's got a home in South Florida, so he's used to
yeah.
it.
Well, that because that was really the only thing. He was, in my opinion, I thought he was a very good teammate. I think to me, it's just a typical New York media. They made it seem like because he was a flaky kind of guy, they took it
Mhm.
as, oh, this is another troubled player that's making headlines off the field. He should be worried about football and not worried about music and going bowling when he should be at an event. Just silly things that,
Yeah.
okay, does it really matter if the guy performs? And unfortunately, because of the fact that the team is no good and he had the injury earlier this year, he wasn't able to perform. Then as soon as he leaves, it gets, oh, that's okay. It didn't. He was trouble anyway, and I don't see it. I think when he came, I mean, I saw when he came back from injury, the first game back, his last game, I thought it looked fine. I think when the holes are there and you see him run, you see the old Le'Veon as far as I'm concerned, but it's hard to know if the old Le'Veon is still there because of the team. Comparing the Jets to the Pittsburgh Steelers is ridiculous. So I think he's going to do just fine in Kansas City. I think on the field he would have just done just fine with Miami. But hey, you know what? I also think it's important when you're rebuilding a team and you have a young player like Gaskin out there and he is outperforming. I have no problem. Okay, you didn't get Bell, but we still have an opportunity to show our young guys that when they perform well, that they're still going to get the opportunity to play.
Oh, no question. I mean, it's not like it's the end of the world that they didn't get him,
No.
but I understand the pursuit. And I what I didn't understand is some fans saying he's not better than what we have. We don't need him and all that.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
the other thing you didn't mention also is part of the reason it never worked out in with the Jets is number one, the offensive line wasn't good.
Yeah.
He wasn't used properly, and also then he had the toxic relationship with his head coach, which would not have been the case in Miami.
Yeah.
So I think going after him was absolutely the right thing to do.
And you don't have to pay him basically. You give him $1 million,
Correct. You
whatever it
contract
was.
signed. Holy moly, yeah.
Yeah. So and who knows? I mean, he's only going to be there for the year. Next year, the
Correct.
Dolphins are still going to go out and pursue another running back, another full-time running back, whether through free agency or the draft. So who knows? Le'Veon Bell could still be an option next year.
If he's reasonably priced, yeah,
Yeah.
because as you mentioned, Jordan Howard's his option likely. I mean, not his option. I'm sorry, he's got a second year in his contract where the Dolphins can walk away with no financial ramifications. And at this point, it would be a shock if they didn't release him. And Matt Breida's scheduled to be an unrestricted free agent, so absolutely, they are looking like they'll be in the market for a running back.
Speaking of the deadline, because that's coming up pretty fast. So what do we have? 2 weeks, I believe, right? It's the first week of November.
Trade deadline. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
You know what? I looked it up. I was trying to find it because they changed so
I
many
know.
things. I'm not even sure.
I
I
think
think it's
originally
November
it was
3rd.
late October, and I think they just moved it to the first week in November recently. So, but anyway, fact is, it's coming up quick.
Mhm.
And what do you think as far as the Dolphins going out there and making a move? Is it not, it doesn't matter, or could there be a type of player where they don't have to give up much? Because there'd be a lot of players out there that you could still trade for that's not going to cost you a lot. You can get good players at this point in the season for a fifth, a sixth, a seventh. So is there a particular spot that you can see a veteran adding to this club that could make sense?
I do, but I don't know that there's going to be somebody to fill that hole. To me, the one concerning area on this roster is a slot corner where they have used a combination of players. I know Brandon Jones might have gotten a couple of snaps there. Jamal Perry got some snaps there. Lately, they've been using Nick Needham there. And it's an area that's a little bit troublesome when they start playing against some good slot receivers. I tend to worry, for example, against the Jets, the guy who did the most damage was Jamison Crowder, who had 7 catches, a lot of them against Nick Needham, who also has gotten his share of penalties, excuse me, with illegal contact or DPI. So that would be the one spot, but those guys are tough to come by,
Yep.
and teams don't tend to want to get rid of them when they have them. So I don't know how feasible or realistic that is.
Well, I know one that I can't imagine he wouldn't be available. Actually, plays for the Jets, and that's Poole. Pulls a good
Right.
slot corner. I was shocked that the Jets got him at the contract they got him at. Like, wait a second. These, like you said, good slot corners don't grow on trees. And you can get, I think that this contract is like less than 5 million, I think, for the year. It's like nothing. The small, short, I'm pretty sure it's a 1-year deal. So I don't really, so if the Jets, I mean, I'm sure the Jets are going to trade as many players like that they can to get as much draft capital as they can. So, and I don't think Joe Douglas cares if he trades him in the division or not. He's already traded with the Patriots.
No, and it's not like they're winning the division anyway
No.
this year.
So we'll keep an eye on that. Maybe that's something that would make sense.
A name to remember.
Yeah. As far as the schedule. Okay. So it's the Rams next, correct?
After the bye, the Rams.
And then it's at Arizona.
Yep.
And then it's home against LA.
Herbert
and then it's at Denver.
Matchup.
Oh, yeah. That'll be a good one. And then at Denver. So that's the new schedule. Rams, Arizona, Chargers, Denver. And it's back to New York, and the regular schedule will be the same for the final 6 games. Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So Rams and Arizona, that'll be those 2 games specifically. The NFC West, you know, if any one of those teams was in the NFC East, they'd be running away with the division. That includes Arizona.
That's horrible. You know, the one good thing about playing the Rams is the Rams are flying across the country and they play Monday night. So that's going to have a big disadvantage for them.
There you go. So that's right, because that wasn't already on the schedule. So now they get a little bit of a new kind of schedule. Is that how it would have worked out for the Rams originally? Is it?
No, they were scheduled from the start. Yeah.
I'd be pretty upset if I was the Ram coach. Wait a second, you put us on Monday Night Football and we got to travel to Miami on a short week
and play at 10 a.m.
Yeah, 1 o'clock. Couldn't you put us at least at 4?
Yep.
Give us a break. Yeah, I still can't understand. I'm glad. I think we're seeing a little bit more of it this year, maybe with the schedule as well, because of the way that they have to move these games. We didn't have it last week. We had 2 games. I can't stand the 80% games at 1 o'clock, and they'll have like 2 games at 4 o'clock.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
I mean, I don't really know what that's about. I don't get it.
Well, it's all about showcasing one game like they did last week. The Fox doubleheader game was basically the entire country was going to watch Green Bay at Tampa Bay, whether they liked it or not, regardless of where they lived, because of Rodgers and Brady, and it turned out to be a dud of a game. And then CBS had to have, for contractual obligations, had to have 1 4 o'clock game, which is why you saw the Dolphins play the Jets in that time slot.
Yeah, I think if you at least just, I mean, you know, nobody's saying you should have 5 and 5, but if you could just make it 3 games, is that asking for too much? 2 games is nonsensical. You know, forcing everybody to watch 1 game for whatever reason, if they don't want to or whatever. And then what's like you said, what happens if it's a dud? Then, all right, that's right. Let me turn on the other game. Oh, it's the Jets-Dolphin game. That's already over, and it's the second quarter. And then, you know, your 4 o'clock games are over. But whatever. That's the NFL for you. All right. So Dolphins 3-3. And again, the schedule is different. But right now, as far as the goals for year 2, definitely Dolphins have achieved those goals in season 2 with Brian Flores after 6 games.
Oh, after 6 games, absolutely no question about it. Should they put themselves in position to contend for the playoffs? Now, if Tua's a hit, it's gravy, and I hate to say the sky's the limit because that's such a cliche expression, but future could not be more bright. If Tua struggles and the record goes south, then there's going to be a whole lot of second guessing going on.
Yeah, and I do get the feeling because of who Tua is, the type of player he is, I think we're going to get a pretty quick gauge on his talent. I don't think he's going to be, because we see a lot of young quarterbacks today that they don't necessarily look like they're 4-year veterans, but like Burrow or like Herbert, you can get in the league right away and you can have your moments where you look, hey, this kid's got talent. We can win games with this kid even in his rookie season. I think we're going to find that out relatively quick with Tua, and I think if he's healthy and he's the man, he's going to make it interesting because the AFC is going to be a tough race for 7 spots. NFC is easy, but the AFC is even though there's that ton of teams with one win and the Jets, there's still a lot of good teams in the AFC.
Yeah, but I would tell you, if Tua proves to be the
Mm-hmm.
man and delivers on his promise and then the hope that so many fans have, Dolphins just might win that division. I mean, they got a lot of the pieces in place. The offensive line, as we mentioned, is solid. The defense has been playing lights out the last couple of weeks. The pass rush is coming to life, and that works hand in hand with the secondary providing the great coverage with Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. The running game isn't great, but it can be serviceable. And so, yeah, if Tua is the Tua that everybody hopes he is, yeah, this team could make a lot of noise
You
this
think
year.
the Dolphins would add another running back?
It's a good question.
May not be a bad
Not if it
idea
comes,
considering, because if anything would have happened to Gaskin.
except I have a hard time seeing them giving up a draft pick for a running back when you're paying Jordan Howard 4.75 million guaranteed.
Even like a sixth
And
or a
I
seventh?
understand. Yeah, yeah. Well, for a 6 or a 7, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
certainly wouldn't
they're
take
out
2
there.
or 3.
I think there are players out there, decent players. I mean, would you, if Adrian Peterson became available? Now, Detroit won, and I don't think Adrian Peterson cares. I think all Adrian Peterson cares about is getting touches because he wants to boost his Hall of Fame numbers, or else he would
Mm-hmm.
have decided to go to Kansas City or one of those other really good teams instead of Detroit. But so I don't think that's going to happen because he could still get carries with, even though Swift had a huge game. And maybe
Yeah.
he's thinking, oh, I'm going to get my touches taken away from me. Maybe I can go to Miami. But see, that's what I'm saying. I think there are players like Adrian Peterson that you can get for nothing for like a 7th round draft pick. That might make sense.
Yeah, I haven't seen him play this year, so I don't know how much he's got left. That would be the question
Yeah.
for me.
Not a full-time guy anymore, but
Okay.
somebody that could do, get another running back in that could be a good partner for Gaskin, because I don't think the Dolphins have that partner they can trust. I mean, Breida, do you think he could still be that guy?
He's okay. He's not had a ton of success running the ball, but I'm not sure the run blocking's been all that great either.
Yeah, that's true.
So my guess is they're going to move forward with what they have. Could they use another running back to complement Gaskin? Yeah, no question.
Is there anyone on the practice squad, just the team in general, not just running backs? Is there somebody on the practice squad that we could be hearing about in the next few weeks that could be a contributor?
Not really. I mean, they've elevated guys 3 different times to help out for specific games. Cornerback Tay Hayes for the Jacksonville game, a defensive end Tyshawn Render for the Frisco game, and then it was Benito Jones, a D tackle for the Jets game. But I don't know that there's anybody like who's screaming at that spot. I can tell you they have a tight end who's going to move up if there's ever an injury because they've protected him from being poached every single week. So obviously they think highly of him. Right now he's just 4th, and they only need to carry.
Who's
2,
that?
So name is Chris Myrick, played at Temple.
Okay. Keep an eye on him when the time is right. No show next week because there's no game. So we'll be back again in 2 weeks after the Ram game. And we'll see if the Rams have a little bit of a hangover there. But it's Tua's first game, and it's a home game. So is there any chance on the Dolphins in a couple? They haven't said anything at all? Nothing new about adding some seats for the game? Adding some tickets, extra tickets?
They have not. They still have the option based on the guidelines around the state if they want to increase, but they have not said anything.
Interesting.
And with COVID cases around the country going up, wouldn't surprise me if they just kept it at what they had.
And what's that capacity, by the way?
It's around 65,000. They've been operating at 20% capacity,
Okay.
so they're limiting it to 13,000. I think the attendance exactly Sunday was 10,772.
So I'm assuming we'll get 13,000 in 2 weeks.
Yeah. It's gonna be a sellout.
Yeah, right. That would have been interesting to see. When was the last time Dolphins had a true sellout?
That's a great question. I'd have to go.
You think they would have had one?
Right. No, they've had.
No, I mean, do you think
yes.
they would have had one if they could have this week? Next week?
This past week
No,
against the
next
Jets?
week. I mean,
with Tua starting. Ooh,
think that could have been sellout game.
You know what? I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
That's how much he moves the needle down here, and how fans are excited to see him play.
Yeah, because you'd even get a probably about 10 or 20% of non-Dolphin fans, non-Ram fans that even just want to go.
Tua
Tua
fans, yep.
fans, yeah.
Yep.
All right, Alan. Appreciate it as always. Enjoy the week off, and on this show at least.
Do our
And we'll
best.
talk to you again in 2 weeks.
All righty, sounds good.